Steven Spielberg presents Gremlins. Billy Pelser has a nice home.
Billy, is that you?
Yeah, Mom, it's me.
A nice job. A nice girl.
If you're not doing anything this Thursday night, maybe you'd like to go out on a date with me?
I'd love to.
And loving parents who are about to give him
You're gonna like this. No, don't shake it. We're gonna have to open it now. It won't wait till Christmas.
the most unusual gift he ever got.
What is it?
It's your new pet.
Come on, Barney, be a good dog. My dad gave it to me.
But there are a few things to keep in mind. If you expose it to the light, you may hurt it. If you get it wet, it will multiply.
All that from water? They got wet?
Yeah, plain water.
And most important, no matter how much they beg, never let them eat after midnight. Because when they do, they change. They become clever, mischievous,
What's going on here?
and dangerous.
Gremlins, huh? Little monsters.
Right.
Hundreds of them.
Well, I don't know, maybe thousands.
They've been here too. Billy, what are these things? Where did they come from?
Look, I know it sounds crazy, I know. But in a few hours, you're gonna have a major disaster on your hands.
Gremlins, directed by Joe Dante. They'll be expecting you.
Hello, welcome to Movie Umpers. My name is Bob Sham,
My name is Angela.
and the sounds here may be dogs. And I want to say off the top, if you're listening to us a lot this month, you'll hear me say this a lot, but I have to because people bounce around. We are making some changes to the show. We have 2 podcast feeds out there, 2 RSS feeds, which you can listen to the podcast. We're going to consolidate those into one, and the Documenteers backlog episodes off the SoundCloud RSS feed will be taken off and it'll be consolidated. So you can download any of these tracks, including Movie Umpers episodes, off of SoundCloud directly. So you can go download as much as you want, take them, rip them, flip them, chop and screw them like DJ Screw.
Burn them onto CDs and give them to your friends.
Yeah, burn them onto CDs for sure. I think we are going to change the name of the show. I think we got a name. I think we got it. So our name won't be as outwardly pervy. It was just off the top of my head, and it was we want to trick you. We want to pull you in and then show you we're pervy. We don't want to show you right off the bat. But it is Christmas time.
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
Camp Comfort and Joy all month long. Angela picked the majority of these. This movie is so interesting in its time. A huge movie when we were kids. When we were kids, this was like one of the movies,
It
right?
was, yeah.
But I think what's so fascinating about, we've already talked about one Joe Dante movie, The Howling. A much more adult movie, but still kind of visceral and violent. And this movie, the Gremlins also helped establish the PG-13 rating, which is very interesting. It was just PG, and then this and another movie, I'm forgetting off the top of my head, I wish I could remember.
Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
But there were a couple of movies that came out at the time, and Gremlins was one of them, that would go on to create the PG-13 rating.
It was so much more violent than I remember.
Yeah, and very gross and pretty gory in moments, but
When I was a kid, I think it just washed over me and I didn't pay attention to those bits. But now, it was almost shocking. If I had taken a small child to the theater to see that, I understand why people were a bit concerned.
things were just a little different back then in terms of how we viewed things. And,
Yeah.
I mean, America's always picked violence over sexuality.
I was just thinking
so
that, yep.
And it was even more so back then. Even though there's less tits in movies now, that's why we had to go watch The Substance to really get that feel. Because allegedly, the young folk don't want to see people having sex in movies. And I say more sex in movies, more.
Yeah, what's up with these young folks?
We want to fill in the void of Mr. Skin. Have you heard of Mr. Skin?
Yes, I have.
If the celebrity gets naked, Mr. Skin knows about it and posts. I haven't been on that site since I was probably 19.
I've never been on that site.
But they're so culturally significant, I still think of Mr. Skin. I guess
Absolutely.
I guess Mr. Skin's still around.
It's timestamps even, right? It says this movie at this exact time you will see boobs.
The gremlin that opens his overcoat and shows off, that scene better be in Mr. Skin. As I was saying, Joe Dante. Much like The Howling, this movie is also very reverential. It talks about the lore of Gremlins. I forget the guy's name.
Mr. Futterman.
Dick Miller, character actor. He played a character that ran the occult store in The Howling. A great character actor. But yeah, Mr. Futterman recounts
Gremlins. You got to watch out for the foreigners because they plant gremlins in their machinery. That's the same gremlins brought down our planes in the big one. Big one. That's right. World War II. Good old WWII.
Planes and shit in World War II that people thought that they saw like little gremlins, like taken apart and fucking with their plane. And that is a real thing that people seem to hallucinate, seeing little men try to fuck with their stuff. So there is a lore around this idea of gremlins that come along and make mischief. On top of that, there's a bunch of like reverential Christmas stuff. I think Phoebe Cates works at like a savings and loan, just like
she
George
and the
Bailey.
main guy do. Billy and Phoebe Cates work there.
Just like George Bailey did in It's a Wonderful Life. They watch It's a Wonderful Life.
They do. And you've got in this movie, it's an old woman who's a curmudgeon who owns all this property and won't give people a break on their debts.
And there's pop culture references amongst the gremlins themselves. Yeah. Joe Dante, his style of movie, and he's very ahead of its time, but he kind of reminds me of a lot of what we see in modern filmmaking now, where things are over culturally reverential. It's almost like too much, but it seems like Joe Dante kind of strikes that chord the way we see it in modern times, but he seemed to do it like decades before that style seemed to get really popular. The Gizmo cute factor helps too. Like that's the thing that pulls the kids in.
Oh,
right?
Absolutely.
And it works. Gizmo's cute as shit, but of course we're talking about the movie Gremlins. 1984 by Joe Dante, written by Chris Columbus, another director. Starring Zach Gilligan, Phoebe Cates, Hoyt Axton, Francis Lee McCain. Hoyt Axton plays Randall Peltzer. He is a very terrible inventor. The economy is so different back then from it is today that he could be a half-ass inventor and still support a family in a pretty nice house.
And afford to go to conventions. He is a classic dad from the time.
Bumbling, clueless
but
dad.
But loves his family so much and would never cheat on his wife and just wants to make something of himself.
He goes into Chinatown. We guess it's New York. This is definitely in the Northeast somewhere, and this fictional town or whatever. And he goes into this old stereotypical Chinese man's shop, and he wants something that's in this cage, but he's like, you're not responsible enough for that. But there's this boy that led him there.
The grandson. And
the grandson later meets up and like takes his money and gives him the item that he wanted later. The look of Chinatown here looks actually really cool. Yeah. Like I wanted to like hang out there with the neon lights. It almost looked like some weird cyberpunk Chinatown, right?
Absolutely.
Dad comes home and he gives his son Billy his gift.
You're kidding. Dad, it's really neat. Where did you get this?
Some little junk store in Chinatown.
And out pops a little Mogwai, which in Cantonese means devil. Fun facts here.
Forgot that the reason his name is Gizmo is because the dad is an inventor.
Yeah.
He'd been calling him Gizmo because he didn't know what he was.
Now, Gizmo, as well as what would become of the creatures later, Gizmo seems to have a general, he understands some of the human language. Mm-hmm. Like Mogwais and Gremlins, for that matter, they seem to have this cultural and spatial awareness similar to toddlers. As soon as they pop out, they understand enough of what's going on that they can piece together. Like they'll know your name, they'll know where they came from, they'll understand movie references. They're really into films. They love movies. But yeah, they are essentially like the brains of toddlers, but when they're gremlins, they're much more athletic.
They do understand almost everything the people say, but they can't communicate clearly right away. They get better and better the longer they're there.
Now there's rules though. Don't get them wet. So they're never to be bathed. Do not feed them after midnight.
And no bright lights because sunlight will kill them.
Even artificial bright light is too much for them.
It burns their eyeballs.
Also, the feeding after midnight, it is Eastern time, Eastern U.S. Standard
That
Time.
is the one thing that even as a kid, I was like,
what if it...
what?
Eastern U.S. Standard Time, because that's where their fictional town is. It's definitely in the Northeast. Maybe New England. It's very snowy. So Zach has his little buddy, his little Gizmo buddy, and he has a... Boy, what a score for a girlfriend, right? He's got Phoebe Cates.
She is not his girlfriend
Behringer.
at the beginning, but you can tell that he likes her, and they're friends. When they kiss towards the end, that's the first time they've kissed.
Oh, right.
It's very intense, and they're getting to know each other during this whole time. She's one of the most beautiful people in the entire world.
You know, she married Kevin Kline, who was a little older than her at the time when they got married. But yeah, she married Kevin Kline, and she went and raised kids.
Yeah.
Like, she kind of quit the acting world for the most part.
But talk about extremely influential on
Young
everyone
men who grew up in the 80s and 90s.
and some
Yes,
ladies.
I cannot deny the effects that Fast Times at Ridgemont High had on me as a youngster.
She can perfectly play that Fast Times at Ridgemont High kind of bitchy, super sexy girl, and also the Gremlins' sweet as pie girl next door.
She's so sweet that she's working at this bar for free
To help out someone named Dory.
I
don't think we ever meet Dory.
This is slavery twice in 1 week. We had it in Holiday Inn with the Mamie, and now Phoebe Cates is a bar wench slave. What's going on here in this America? But she hates Christmas, and we'll get into that later. But Corey Feldman is the kid neighbor. He comes over to while Billy shows off his Mogwai, and Gizmo is the cutest motherfucker ever.
He's the cutest thing ever.
And
he sings. He loves music.
We'll have to get to the second movie maybe next year, but he dances in the second
I can't wait to rewatch the second one. I remember that one less.
What happens, they accidentally spill water on him. Gizmo starts writhing. He's like, and then little balls start popping out of him.
Uh-huh.
And then, as if one Mogwai isn't cute enough,
now you've got 6.
yeah, and one has a little spike on his head, and they're like, but they got attitude. They're mean.
They do, and they're loud, and at some point, Billy has to put them in a chest, and they're just screaming and thrashing around. They just want attention, and the one with the little stripe, Spike, is very clearly the leader of that little group of them from the beginning, and they also don't like Gizmo, even when they're Mogwai.
Gizmo's like your dad. Respect your elders.
They think he's weak.
Well,
because he wants to follow the rules as much as the people do. But you know what? They don't. They know how to change clocks, or at least unplug them. They unplug the clock. Billy doesn't know that it's after midnight, and this is a extremely visceral memory of mine from childhood. And as I was watching this may be part of what's embedded in my brain that makes me hate weird mouth noises, is when these little dudes are eating this fucking chicken, and it is so slimy and stringy and grody, and I was like cringing.
This movie is, there's gross out, there's horror, there's comedy. Like, this movie really has everything. One of the ones that Gizmo spawned ends up going to this scientist.
They take him, to a teacher.
Yeah,
science teacher.
And but his Mogwai eats a sandwich, and we first see the egg in its cage, and
it's like a cocoon.
He cuts it open, and then it opens up, and he has to chase it, but some people get killed.
He gets killed. The scientist guy gets killed.
He gets killed chasing. We don't see the gremlins at the time. And then they go, then Mom, played by Frances Lee McCain, who plays Lynn Peltzer.
Wonderful.
This scene is pretty fucking amazing.
This is truly amazing. The scientist called and said, it's hatching. He goes there, finds that it has wreaked havoc, and then thinks, oh shit, my mom. Because the sandwich was eaten the same night that the chicken was eaten, somehow.
So the mom sees all these fucking eggs, these green booger looking things, and they break open, and then she starts hearing things like they're in the house. They've gotten out of the eggs. And then she starts seeing them pop out of the kitchen, and this mom takes out like 3 gremlins. Like she blends one, she's like she's stabbing them, she's fighting them.
She blows one up in a microwave. The only one that gets away is Spike.
Props to mom here. She really threw down the gauntlet, and
they were trying to kill her.
She went fucking commando on that shit and killed like 3 or 4 gremlins off the top.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
Billy comes home, but Spike, he crashes out the window and he's taken off. I don't know why the snow isn't also making them wet. So Billy has to go and find the Spike. He's full gremlin now, but he jumps into the YMCA pool. And so what do you know? You got like dozens and dozens, maybe 100 gremlins.
A full theater full.
And we see the
hundreds.
He reconnects with Phoebe Cates because she's at the bar.
I love this scene.
And it's fully occupied by gremlins.
They're smoking cigarettes. They're drinking alcohol. They're swinging from the chandeliers.
It's like, just leave. You don't have to serve them.
She is afraid of them, and she keeps saying, just don't bite me. And she's filling up their drinks. It's insane.
Run.
I know, but she does eventually figure out.
It's just funny that she serves them, and they don't. They don't have money.
Well, after the one flashes her, the flasher flashes her, complete with sunglasses and trench coat, she realizes that they don't like bright lights, and she starts using the flash on a Polaroid camera. So she is flashing them with the flash and gets out of the bar and then runs into Billy and Gizmo. She's freaked out by Gizmo, too, because she doesn't know what any of these creatures are, but he tells her he's okay. They're going to get in the car, but the car won't start because there's gremlins under the trunk.
Also, they kill Mr. Futterman.
Yeah, and he truly is
sad.
Like, there's gremlins! They're real!
Now, the gremlins are funny as hell. They're very funny, in like a Looney Tunes kind of way. Yes. And like I said, they have the cultural and social awareness of toddlers. So they can speak just enough. They know who people's names are. They know about Christmas caroling. They go out and they Christmas carol. And they have this laugh, too. That's very funny, that they're so enamored with themselves and their own weird sense of humor. There's even one that does like a flash dance gremlin.
Yes, and they're so good at anything electronic. They can rework something. The mean lady has one of those chairs that goes up and down the stairs that she can ride on.
When you're handicapped and it goes up.
They fix it so that she goes up and it goes so fast that it throws her out of the house.
Well, pretty good shot when she goes flying out the house. It's a lot of fun. Phoebe Cates then explains why she doesn't like Christmas. Yes. And why doesn't she?
When she was 9 on Christmas, her dad didn't come home. He was missing for days. And they started searching for him and they couldn't find him. And it was very cold. And so she went to light a fire.
So I went to try to light up the fire. And that's when I noticed the smell. Firemen came and broke through the chimney top. And me and Mom were expecting them to pull out a dead cat or a bird. And instead, they pulled out my father.
Dad got stuck in the chimney and died. That's a pretty good reason to hate Christmas.
She did add in that he broke his neck and died immediately. Which I guess you would, because otherwise he would have screamed and got their attention.
I guess the cold kept him from decomposing. Because it seems like you would start to smell something.
Yeah, she didn't notice until she was right under there. But it's such a serious monologue that takes a few minutes. And she delivers it beautifully, but it's so crazy that this is in the middle of this movie.
The idea of the Gremlins is that they're these things that fuck with everything, but then you don't see evidence of them later. On the radio, they're listening, and it's Rockin' Ricky, the DJ, and he's like,
"You're on with Rockin' Ricky, go!"
Hi, Rockin' Ricky. My name's Pete. There's these little green guys with big teeth running around town. Ricky.
Hey, kid, this is Christmas, not Halloween. Listen, gang, Rockin' Ricky's getting fed up with all this Orson Welles crap, so cool it, will ya? What's that? Kitty, what's that back there? Some of Rockin' Ricky fan thing? Hey, you're not Rockin' Ricky, man!
These little comedic touches are really nice all along the way. This movie is very funny.
It's so funny.
But the Gremlins all converge onto a movie theater. They've packed it out, and they're watching Snow White and the Seven Dwarves. They love the movies.
There's one gremlin that puts the little popcorn bags on his ears. He's the cutest gremlin in the entire world. I love these guys. I know that they're bad.
They're a plague. They're very dangerous.
But if you could be buddies with them, what a good time that would be for 1 hour.
No, they are very entertaining. They do kill like 3 people in here.
They do.
In this movie.
Maybe more.
But they don't kill Phoebe Cates. They just let her serve drinks. I kind of like them a little bit more hijinksy than murdery.
I do too.
You know, I would have understood if they didn't make them kill, but it was the 80s. Like, even in a kid's movie, things had to die sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, they go to the boiler room and they rig up the gas and then they light it and they blow this movie theater up. So all the gremlins are out, but Spike.
Because Spike went across the street because he saw a sign that said candy. And he needed to go get some num-nums.
So he's going, and he says it. He says as much.
Yum, yum.
And the movie climaxes all over our tits at the Montgomery Ward. And Billy has to chase, Billy, Gizmo, and Phoebe Cates, her name is Kate, have to go and find Spike and end the gremlin menace once and for all. And it's a pretty scary scenes here. Gizmo gets away from Phoebe Cates and drives like a Barbie Corvette around, which is really cute. He does save the day.
She's trying to turn all the lights on.
But there's a point where like the Spike shoots Billy with a crossbow because this store has like everything, toys. It's like a Montgomery Ward
store, yeah.
And he pulls out a chainsaw and Billy's like holding him off with like a bat.
And the bat is splintering.
It's a really cool scene.
It's very cool. And then finally he loses control, and then I love the part where the gremlin just gets drug out of the room by the chainsaw. It's so good.
But Spike sees the fountain, and like a wrestler climbing a ladder, he's doing it very slowly when he probably should have just dumped right in. But he touches, and he's taunting.
He's got a gun.
He has a gun, and he's shooting. He's like, bang, bang. And he
actually
shoots
says,
at Billy.
bye-bye, Billy.
and it's not looking good for Billy, and he's about to procreate when Gizmo, just in time, flies in and pulls open the curtains.
And it's real sunlight.
It's Christmas morning, and the sun comes in and melts Spike instantly, and it's real gross. And he turns into ooze.
Horrifying. And he does the one more time back up.
Where he's just a skeleton.
Bones.
Yeah. It's too bad. They were at least fun. But what a plague. Like, you got to get rid of Mogwais. Like, no one is responsible enough to deal with these creatures.
You said Mogwai means devil, demon?
Devil, yeah.
Devil. So Gizmo, cute as he is constantly just saying, devil.
Yeah.
Because he says Mogwai all the time.
Oh, before we get to this part, there's some weird points that, one, they go to school on Christmas Eve when the science teacher, they're at school on Christmas Eve. Yeah. And the dad goes to an inventor convention on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
That's gotta be, There are not many days of the year. Like, if you could come up with the worst days out of the year to hold a convention, Christmas Eve and Christmas Day have got to be like, and New Year's. Those are the top 3 worst.
You need to have had that convention in January of that year if you want someone to buy your invention and make it to sell at Christmas. Come on.
So Billy and Kate, they have successfully wiped out the Gremlins.
Yes.
Either blown them up or melted them. So there's no real evidence that they exist. So the news is kind of calling
Mass
it
hysteria.
Mass hysteria. The dad comes home, but then the old Chinese man just appears in the house.
And Gizmo, when he sees him, he calls him Baba, which means daddy. And so he loves this man. And he immediately is like talking. And the man understands him. He can speak Mogwai is the name of the language, I think he says. Like, it's crazy.
The devil language?
I guess. But he's talking to him, and he just tells them, you weren't ready. And he does look at Billy at the end and say, maybe one day you will be. Because Gizmo loves him. You know,
Yeah.
He needs to say like one last goodbye to Billy.
You mean you understand what he says when he speaks to you?
To hear, one has only to listen.
Bye, Billy.
Bye, Billy.
Yeah, I wanted him to say more than that. To be like, he was like, Gizmo needs to tell you something.
Yeah.
Bye, Billy. It's like he could have been like, I love you or something.
He has something to say to you.
You mean you understand what he says when he speaks to you?
To hear, one has only to listen.
I'm over here stroking my dick. I got lotion on my dick right now. I'm just stroking my shit. I'm horny as fuck, man. I'm a freak, man.
So the man walks off while the narrator warns us about gremlins and what if something's going on in our home, something's going wrong. It's probably Gremlins, and I'm sure it is. And that's Gremlins by Mr. Joe Dante. I'd say this is one of my favorite Joe Dante movies. I'm going to give this 1 through 5 each, combined for best out of 10. I think Gremlins, other than there's some weird parts of the movie, but all in all, just pure enjoyment. I'm going 4.
I'm going to give it a 4.5.
All right. 8.5 for Gremlins. Gremlins by Joe Dante is in between the films Freddy Got Fingered and Mississippi Masala. 8.5, a good score. And it's at least as good as those, if not better. Gremlins remains a hell of a good time during the Christmas season. I wish I would love to have some Gremlin friends. I'd go to the movies with them. They'd love it.
I'll watch Snow White with you guys.
Yeah. Totally.
Hey, we have a projector. Come over.
That does it for today's episode. Like, subscribe, look at the show notes for links, other places to find us. Come back to us tomorrow. We got drops every day for the rest of the week. And we will be saving Christmas with Ernest, our first ever Ernest movie, starring the very criminally underrated and late, great Jim Varney. So we're excited about that.
Trained actor, that guy.
I loved Ernest when I was a kid.
This was my favorite Christmas movie.
All right, so that does it for this episode. We'll see you tomorrow.
Happy holidays.
Get down my